All right, good afternoon, everybody. If you are here in the US, we say good afternoon to you. If you are joining us from Monrovia, Liberia, we say good evening to you. It's 7 p.m. now in Liberia. We say thank you for joining Liberia Shall Rise. I am your host, Gaston Sharif. I'll be joined here shortly by my good friend Emmanuel Sapalucia. The other guys are away from the post today, so we'll be holding down the fort. But as you know, though, we always come here. I don't think we consider ourselves to be this all inclusive platform, but we pick our poison. We pick a specific item that is of importance to Liberia, importance to us, and we will present on a particular subject matter. We do not claim any political affiliation with anyone, and so we just come here and we share exactly. If we see something good taking place in the country, we are here to share it. If we see something that is not so good, we will share those. We'll give our opinion on it as well. And hopefully, people who are decision makers, people who are policy makers, people who are lawmakers, they will hear what else the common people have to say, and hopefully they will make some effect, some change in the country, since we cannot bring about those changes. And so today, though, we are going to be looking at, in my opinion, something that's very good. Is it benefits Liberia, the Millennium Challenge scorecard just came out, and that's the Millennium Challenge Corporation. The scorecard just came out, and most people in Liberia, they don't even know. I'm sorry, but people are not even thinking that. They're not even looking for a scorecard. But this scorecard has been a big deal for the past 4 or 5 years. Every regime come in position, and they celebrate what they have achieved. And I think it's about 20 different categories on the scorecard that is measured, and so regimes will always come and they will look at all of these different scores and they will say, wow, the administration or the regime have done well, or we have done certain things correctly. And so everybody is looking at the scorecard. The last administration, they look at it and they hail themselves or as a good administration because, quote unquote, they pass. And so this administration, the scorecard for fiscal year 2026 is up. And again, there's some sort of jubilation or some sort of contentment, some sort of satisfaction that this administration have done well. So in Liberia, we always talk about the Dillwell Trophy, right? So we always shoot for the Dillwell. And that is something that hopefully at some point in time we will change, because we are just very complacent. We I always kind of say this way: Liberians, for some reason, it is not hard to please us. So every little thing actually make us happy, and we can look at those things and say, "Hey, man, we did it. We're doing well." And I think that is where, in my opinion, this whole concept of "did well" come from, because we are pleased very easily. We follow and we are satisfied with what we have. And so we are going to go a little bit more into the scorecard, but we're going to be talking about the Millennium Corporation. We're going to be talking about that and see exactly what is it, and what, I mean, is this a hidden secret? Is this something that people don't talk about? What is this Millennium or Corporation thing, and how can it benefit Liberia? And so we are going to be talking about that. But in the meantime, though, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do though, I want to take my time. Sapalusa is joining me here, so I want to take my time and really go into the Millennium Challenge Corporation. I don't want to spend too much time on the history of the corporation, because I truly believe there are people in Liberia who can care less what it is. They can care less what this scorecard is all about. There are people in Liberia who really don't, they can care less about this whole scorecard. I think when it comes down to it, honestly, it is the administration, the different administrations that come in place. They always use this as a measuring stick to tell themselves that they are doing something very well. Sabu Lucia, welcome to the show, brother. There's a little echo in your background, so I don't know if you got another TV or something. Okay. Yeah, but how you doing, bro? I know you just Got home from saying thank you to the old man. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm wonderful. Thank God. Another beautiful weather today in Houston, Texas.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, man. But definitely, I think so. Today we'll be talking about the Millennium Challenge Corporation. What is this Millennium Challenge Corporation? And in my opinion, I was just saying, Liberians can care less what this thing is all about. And most Liberians, you walk on the street today and you do this survey and you ask them whether they know about this MCC scorecard, they will ask you, what is it? They have no idea. And I was just making this thing that, we are a people who are not very hard to please, and every little thing will please us. And because of that, we are satisfied with the day well trophy. And that is something we have said since we were kids. Every little thing we did well. We did well. Whether we fail in, you get 70%, you did well. We don't shoot high. And because of that, every administration that come in place, they look at the scorecard as that measuring stick to pat themselves on the back that yes, we have done well, even if the result is not proven in a country. Do your opening statement, man, before we go into this whole scorecard thing.
So, and you see, my take on the scorecard thing, and it will be based on what we have seen over the last 50 years, what this whole scorecard is about, who benefit from the scorecard, what is the main reason behind this scorecard. And I may have what people would call quote unquote a controversial way of looking at this scorecard because I don't think it has any, in my opinion, positive impact on the nation as a people. In fact, on our country. But again, because of where we find ourselves, we rather use somebody who, in my opinion, somebody who is keeping us suppressed, somebody who is oppressing us to come and grade us and tell us, hey, this is what you're doing, instead of that is we ourselves evaluating ourselves. And just like you rightly put it, we like to settle for the minimum, not try to shoot for the high. And let me just give Liberians a context here. There are about 76 countries that are part of this so-called Millennium Scorecard, and they are evaluated by WHO, UNESCO, IMF, World Bank, blah blah blah, you name it. But these are the very people that benefit from this scorecard, not the Liberian people. And that's just my that it is not just my opinion, but it is almost a fact, right? I can say it's a fact because the more they give you guys the so-called scorecard, that's how they get more donor funding. That's what it's used for. It's not used to benefit you Liberian people, because if you look at the grading on that stuff and you know that is not what happening in Liberia. But I mean, if I were open with that, and let me just give this to Liberian people. In the last 50 years, if you measure what have happened, any country that have really restructured their economy and become a better or a developed nation or developing nation have been countries who have said we do not want donors funding. Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, and other countries that have emerged out of China. In fact, China in the last 50 years have come out of the same thing, using their own resources and not depending on donor funding. And because Liberia is one of those countries that want to rely on donors funding, they are going to be the one listed on these scorecards. But those few countries that I just named in the 1960s and 70s, Liberia were way better ahead of them when it comes to their economy. But today they are still behind because we're still relying on donor funding. And Liberia, Sierra Leone, DR Congo, and a few other countries are the most or countries the countries that have received the most donor funding. Whereas, and that is why they are dependent on everything that they get or to survive in their country. But it is not a positive thing, in my opinion. It's not a positive thing for Liberia to be on a scorecard.
Appreciate that. So definitely, let's go into the Millennium Challenge. I think you definitely lay out, because most people, again, like I was saying, if you walk down the streets of Monrovia or anywhere in Liberia, you ask people, "Hey, we hear a lot of noise about the scorecard, Liberia Pass, Liberia Pass. What is the scorecard? What do you know about it?" They will probably tell you, "We have no idea." Again, again, like I said, I didn't want to go too much into the history of it, but when you look at it, though, it is the administration that actually use it and blow the trumpet to make themselves feel like they have achieved something or they are achieving something. And so, whether it bring grants into the country, they do get a grant, they do get the grant, whatever the grant is, but it does little or nothing to make the people's life better. But anyway, let's look at what is whole scorecard is all about. I mean, the whole thing is to measure nations, to measure countries that have actually doing better. You know, they are actually they were pledging or they have done something to say, look, we are going to increase the economic policies in our country, and we are going to be shooting for potential economic growth. And because of that, you know, all of these things that were put into place. But I want to go back though and start to look at the scorecard. Maybe if we look at the scorecard, I don't know if you have it in front of you, Sab, but if you look at the
Yeah.
scorecard, my focus is not too much on what's in the grain. You know, we used to say back in Liberia, even if you got 70%, we say, well, at least it blue. It's not in red mark. It's it's I don't get red mark on my car. You can have all 70s, but you will say I don't get no red. You know, I passed the semester. Okay. but but basically though, when you look at the scorecard itself, I don't want to focus so much on what's considered the passing for Liberia. I want to consider what's not the passing. And even the ones that they consider passing, I still want to look at it and say, okay, how could this have been better? How could this have been better? The first place I want to start, though, I want to start with women in economy. You know, Liberia got a passing grade in that area. Liberia got a passing grade. But I would have loved to see something else now, because again, the reason why these agencies that do these measurements, the reason why these agencies cannot really judge fairly, or they really can't come to the place we want to get, is because they are not in our culture. They are looking at data. They are not in our culture. But when you look at women in economy, basically no administration, in my opinion, I'm going to say this on it, and I'm going to come back to you. No administration, knowing what I know, and my friends in Liberia, those in government, those who are not in government, those who have been managers, those who work in private sector, they will get angry at me if they want. But I will say this: women in economy, if the people doing this measurement, these statistics, if they are looking at the number of people or women that have been hired in positions, if that is where that measurement is coming from, I would have loved to see, the number of, men in economy. I would have loved to see that. Because when you look at it, Sapalucia, most of the times, just take one ministry, for example. If you look at the number, I don't have the data here, but if you look at just my own broad perspective, most women are working. Most women are working. And the reason that they are working, in place of every man that should have gotten a job, a female that takes that job, she's not getting that job simply because she is qualified. Again, I'm trying to be very, very careful here. I'm not saying all of the ladies that have jobs in Liberia, they are not qualified. But most of them, they are in positions of trust because people brought them in, whether they were girlfriends of people in positions of trust, whether they were partisans of a particular party, or whether that's just a practice in the country. We see all the videos, we see all of the
Mhm.
women, for them to get hired in that country. It's a sad story. For them to get hired, they have to either sleep with someone or they have to know someone, something. It is not because of their qualification they bring. And most of them, they are qualified. But the hiring process in our country, for a young woman to get a job, she walk into an office to get a job in that particular country, whether it's government job or whether it's private sector job, you must submit yourself to something. And so I'm not impressed by that number. Go ahead, Sapalucia.
Yeah, and besides that, though, I'm trying to figure out where the statistics were taken from. Did they go from one ministry to another to see these women in the economy, or are they considering the market women that are in the field? What barometer are they using? 'Cause I'm trying to figure when I look.
Majority of the numbers I use, the raw data, is from market women, because most of the people that do businesses in the country, they are women. So they are not
Yes.
looking at people who get hired, employment. Where would they get the data from? We don't keep those data. Anyway, go ahead.
No. And with that, if you look at the market women, look at the stability of the nation and the economy,
Mhm.
it is not. it's almost not a guarantee that you're gonna have 50 women selling market today, because anything will happen, because most of the businesses in Liberia are not protected by insurance. In the United States, you got your business, little business is protected by insurance. So if anything drastic happen in the real market, and let's say fire catch on something, all the businesses burn. Those people are out of business.
That's right.
So it is not a guarantee, right?
Mhm.
Whereas if there was employment, let's say there are companies and factories open, well, then we can say, yes, this is a little bit more sustainable, right? Because you got
Yeah,
this company that are hiring these people. There's not a chance that tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, all the businesses will just collapse, right? Unless something drastic happen, either in the country as a whole or in the world, like coronavirus did. Then we can speak about that. But I'm not too. And I went way back from 2008. I went back to this scorecard looking at Liberia from 2008. But again, I will always sign. I would not be the how to call this thing, the favorite voice in the room. I'm always the outlier who thinks that we should be thinking outside of the box instead of looking at these cards to reflect how we are judged, right?
mhm.
And if you just look at the whole scorecard, you got 20 places that they evaluate, and 9 is a failure. If you put 9 over 20, that is not a passing mark. That's a failure, because you almost about 56, 57%. The last time I checked, 57% is not a passing score, right?
Yeah.
So for them, and that's why I see again, these scorecards don't really benefit Liberia as a country. It benefits these people who are taking these surveys, these people who are sitting in their cars, by the way, because most of them are not even hitting the ground to say, okay, look, I'm going to Bapulu district and I'm going to ask the people in those districts. I'm going to Zwedru, or I'm going to those various counties and various towns to ask these people. No, these people are sitting in their cars getting paid on air condition, and they're not doing any dirty work to get this data. So in my opinion, this data to me is just something to reflect some positive for the government so that these entities can continue to get their donor funding. That's how I see it. So to me, it is not beneficial to the Liberian people, but let us take for argument's sake, it will benefit in Liberia, right? And we started taking notice of this since 2008. And when I checked it for 2008, they have more failure than, and over the years, since they started, they have not gone 8. In fact, during the Julia government, they always fail for a while until 2020. I think 2023. Then they passed a little bit, right?
Mhm.
It was 50% because it was a 10 failure, 10 passing grade. But if we have had these problems, and these people who are doing this survey, what recommendation, what yardstick have they put in place to say, okay, look, this is where we continue to see these problems. This is how we fix it. If they are ready, if their intention is to make Liberia a successful nation, what have they put in place to say, if the government doesn't do that, we're not going to put this fund in here. If the government doesn't address, let's say, agriculture, money, especially if you look at, you know, I know we don't have a lot of time, but Sherry, if you look at this scorecard,
Mhm.
one of the areas that have always failed, and the most they got green was 2, is investment in the human capital, investment in people. That's how they term that title. Investment in people is always failing. There are 6 categories there. The most they have gotten out of those 6 are 2, right?
Mhm.
So what are we doing to correct that as a nation and as these people who are doing the survey or taking the survey?
So, Lucy, I think here's my opinion on that, right? What tends to happen though? Say, for example, you're a professional person, I'm a professional person. Sometimes we come together and we brainstorm, we have a case, and we're like, man, this case, da 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 is happening, and we come up with recommendation. Let's try A, B, and C, and we put all those recommendations and we pass that on to a team. And that team is there to implement those recommendations and see if it makes a difference. Now, if you get those recommendations and you did nothing with it, of course, you're not going to see a difference. But if you did it, then of course, you begin to see some difference. If you see that difference, you build on it. That's exactly how I look at these scorecards, right? Let's
Yeah.
say, because these reports, they are not being done in a vacuum. because they were looking that you have to at least increase productivity by about 50% in order for this grant to be able to keep coming. So when you get your 57%, you say you passed. Okay, that's fine. But here is the thing. Once we come back to you and we say, look, let me go back here to the report, and we look at it and we say employment opportunity is at 9%. That is rough. That is rough. Business startup is a fail again. That is rough. Natural resources protection, must we fail in that area? That is a rough spot for me, right? Work development, that is a fail. Now, we now as a government or administration, now we should come back and say, this report is really tough. Wow. This government, now the administration now should be saying, we should not celebrate this particular scorecard. Even though, quote unquote, we got our 50 something percent and we passed, but we should not celebrate it. Number one, the reason this particular administration, I'm not talking about any other administration, I'm talking about this one. The reason this administration should not celebrate the scorecard is because of something you said on your arrest agenda. When you came with your arrest agenda, it was job development was very up there. It was high. Young people, a job creation. It was high there for you. So when you look at this scorecard, even if you got 100% in the other categories, but employment opportunity at 9%, you should just be ashamed of what you have done. Now is the time that you as a government, you sit back and say, how do we create jobs? They did something at the beginning of the year during this summer, I would say our summertime. They did something where the Labor Department decided that they were going to take 1,000 young people. They should come to the Labor Ministry and bring their CV. Sapo Lucia, it was sad because I want to say over 10,000 young people show up. The place was so crowded, they couldn't control the crowd. And they said they were only going to pick 1,000 people. And I promise you, they have not given us report of one of those thousands that they picked, because what tends to happen in that particular area, each of those ministers, associate ministers, or people within the ministry, they already chose the people they want to bring on the list before they even put the information out there. The information just go out there so they can say we put an announcement out, we invited people. Well, everybody within that ministry who is someone who is quote unquote some big person, they already choose who they want to hire. Whether it's their girlfriends and their family, they already choose that person. That so they were just wasting the young people time. And then so you as an administration, you should be looking at, man, job creation, job development is such a 9%, you should not celebrate. Whether you got 100%, all of the other area. Again, Sarpolisa, you might say when the same high school. You can pass all your subject, you can get 100, all your subject. If you did not pass Mr. Lawyer, you did not pass Bible, and you are failing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was true.
Mr. Keto said you are failing. You fail. You can get 100% throughout your entire grade card. If you did not pass WAEC, Mrs. Carter said you're not graduating.
Not great. Yeah.
You fail. So you should not be celebrating this. And then when we say, yesterday I was talking to one of my friends who's in the administration, we're talking, and he said, you're being too hard on the government. I said, brother, I'm giving you common sense. This is a way out for you to look at to say, how can we? That's what the recommendation is for. How can we as a government do better, especially when it comes to something we put on our agenda?
Yeah, and you see, when I see these scorecards and I see those are on there, especially our country, they're limited to Liberia and they're celebrating as a passing grade. It reminds me of my son when he's in the laboratory. So this guy go to school, he takes chemistry, he scored 80, and the teacher tells him, oh no, you got a free pass. You don't take the next exam. I said, what is that? I said, 80 is not a passing grade in this house. Right? And I said, when I was in school, 80 was not something. I was fighting to score 100. And you score 80 and somebody saying because you have scored 80, that means you have a pass. She's telling you that's the best you can do. That's what they're telling you. That's what they're telling you. You cannot go beyond that. So they are degrading you. And we sit and employ that degradation. You have limited the people on the outside, the UNESCO, WHO have told you, African first, they tell us, we don't know how to lead ourselves.
Mm.
Right? They tell us that. They say we don't know self-governance.
Yep.
They say we don't know. Yeah, they tell us that every day.
But
So
that's
now
what it
they're
can
telling
mean.
us that the best you can do is 50. And then we apply. Even though your own academic standard you have in your country, it tells you that you had to meet a certain standard. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And let us not forget. I remember I don't want to go off topic, but I want us to put things into context here. When you play the DV, there were criteria that were set. And people don't understand, Africans do not understand, or we who apply for the DV, we did not understand at the time what the objectives were.
Mm-hmm.
The objective were to get the most smart people out of your continent, to drain the knowledge out of your continent. That's what they did to us.
Yep. They were not
But
looking
we're
for
not sitting
Yana ball.
Yeah, right? It's not big. Our country was looking at me because at the time I was Yana Ball, but the American government was looking at what have I produced what have I produced academically, and that's what they used to get me out of Liberia. So these scorecards, if you celebrate this scorecard, then you're telling your country this is the best you can do. This is telling your child the best you can do is 50% of better. We should not be celebrating these things. In fact, we should not even be sitting down and allowing these people to tell us how we should govern our people. That's the first thing. Why should the UNESCO or whoever come and tell you how to protect your natural resources? Don't you know how to protect your own natural resources to benefit you? And that's what the reason I'm really targeting on investing in people, because in order for any country to develop, this section is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You rely on everything comes from there. Your human capacity, you're not building it. If your people are not healthy, they cannot develop your country. Right? If they're not educated, they cannot use the resources right. They cannot maximize the usage of your resources. They won't value your resources, your infrastructure. That's why when we see in Liberia, they're building the roads, they put a light pole up, and somebody is going to tell the man, say, oh, the government put this light pole here, cut it down because it's not because of what?
It's not in
You
power.
have not educated your people. So these scorecards that Mr. Boakai and the Liberian who's celebrating it is an insult. It should be an insult to all of us because we are failing our nations, right? We are failing our people. Yes, it may be used as a wake-up call, but what are we doing with the wake-up call? Are we putting strategies in place? Are we calling our sons and daughters to have a table talk where we discuss what we can do to mitigate these problems? These are things we should be thinking about.
So, Sabulis, let me bring you right back here to the health expenditure, right? When you look at health expenditure, again, this is one area that you are passionate about. You spend a lot of time in the health sector. You got a lot of friends in that area, even in Liberia. And so when you see Liberia at 57% on health expenditure. Now, I'm going to try to put you on the spot here, because when you look at healthcare in the country, whether it's the delivery of the services or the availability of the facility or the infrastructure, I always find it to be very lacking. And so when you look at healthcare in general or health expenditure, Liberia passed, quote unquote, they passed. But I want to come back here and just look at this. I always go back to the example. There's a landlord that I talked to. This was in early February or March.
Sherry, are you looking at fiscal year 2025?
No. Looking at the 2026.
2024?
26.
Because 2025 healthcare expenditure is 49.
Yeah, so I'm looking at 26. Fiscal year.
Oh, that's projection. I mean, I like to look at the one we have done already.
Okay, so let's go. Let me go back to 25 here. Let's look at it.
Yeah, because 25 is that should be the actual one. That should be the most accurate one because this is the assessment they are already done.
Yeah. So okay, let's look at 25, right? So we look at 25, and then we go back here. You look at health expenditure. Okay, 49 is a fail, right? And we always got to look at it from this context. Now, this is such a good opportunity. So if we're not just talking about the delivery of this healthcare, but we're looking at infrastructure, we are looking at the facility. Look, There have there have been people. One of the saddest stories I've heard. It's not one. It happened throughout Monrovia. Whether it's the fire department or the ambulance system in the country, one of the saddest things you will ever hear is somebody is in need of emergency right this moment. They're not breathing. They're on the verge of dying. And then somebody called for ambulance. The ambulance will tell the people on the phone, you have to buy gas, or you got to put gas in the car for us to actually go and pick that person up and take them to the hospital. Or they show up and they ask the person who is there that they have to provide some sort of gas or some sort of incentive in order for that loved one to be taken to the hospital. That you will not get a passing grade in a country if for some reason you continue to do that. Another thing again, you have places. There were a lot of stories, whether it was this year or the year before, where someone they are taken to a hospital, and because they don't have the money to give up front, they were kicked to the curb. This one happened right there in Cinco. We all saw the video. Kicked to the curb, and the person have that baby right there on the sidewalk because they don't have money to take care of their medical bill. And so when you look at all of these different pieces in the country, people are afraid to even go to hospital to check, just for checkup. They are afraid to go for checkup because they don't have money to pay that regular hospital bill. Why would they just want to get up and go for checkup? And so every day you find people dying, whether young people. This year we just buried a good friend, 45 years old in Liberia. He died. And some people say it's witch poison and all of these different stories. But when you really look under all of these allegations that people make, it is just the failure of the healthcare system. People are walking around with very high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all of these different things. But because the infrastructures are not there, or because I mean, you're in the healthcare era. So how can we even try to move that number up? Even if you, let's say, if you can move that to 60%, that will be something. Right now, you sit down 49. So I know you celebrating days. You say one more point, we're going to pass, but we don't see it.
Back to my initial point, right? Where people are celebrating things that are not real. First of all, according to this particular report, we have about 5.418 million people. Million people in Liberia, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're telling me 49%, so you tell me out of every 10 people in Liberia, at least 5 got access to healthcare, which is 100% inaccurate. Let's look at Bon County, for example, the center of Republic of Liberia. You have 2 hospitals, major hospitals, Phoebe and CB Doma Hospital. That's it. And in Bon County, you're talking more than at least 200, maybe 200,000. I'm not looking at. If you go back, I will have to go back to, but it's around that ballpark because they are the third populated state. County in the country. Monserrado, I think Nima, and then Bon, then Lofa, so like that. When it comes to voting population, they are in the top 4. Let me put it that way. Okay, so there may be around 150 to 200,000 people. Now you got 2 hospitals that are not equipped. 2 hospitals. I'm from district number 1. There is no clinic in district number 1. You got no less than 20, because before you become a district, you must have 25,000 people. So you got at least 25,000 people without health care. So how can you tell me that 5 out of every 10 people in the country have access to health care? So first of all, that report is wrong. It's inaccurate. If I was doing a calculation, if I was going on the ground to do that statistic, I would tell you maybe 1 in every, maybe every 100 will have access to healthcare. And that's 0.1% maybe. Okay. So first of all, that is wrong. Now, how can we develop it? Why it is true, there are a lot of challenges. I think even the Liberians in the healthcare field can help. But we need help from those on the ground, the government, even the non-governmental organizations that are there to partner up. Okay? If they're ready, that is a non-governmental organization, if they really want to help Liberia, which of course, in my opinion, they don't. because they use our countries as a means to collect statistics and to keep their donors or funding coming. That's what I believe. Until anyone can prove me wrong, I will stand by that, because from what I have seen, and I just mentioned in the beginning of this program, that in the last 50 years, there are a few countries that resisted. They resisted donor funding, and those countries have come from being nothing to something. Korea, Japan, China, etc., etc. Whereas Liberia, in the same 50 years, have continued to receive donor funding and continue to lavish in poverty. So, if these people really want to help the country, they can work with the diaspora. Because they know they have diaspora Liberians. They know they got educated Liberians outside in all the fields that they do all the census in. Okay? The government has to be willing to work with us. There are many of us who want to go to Liberia and help develop the healthcare system. It has to be that partnership that we're looking for. If we can find that partnership, we can start. It's not going to happen magically, no. But we can start one by one. Okay? Let's take, for example, let's start with Monrovia, JFK. JFK, and that is why it comes back to my point I made last week, that we should get rid of the lawmaker for that district and take that money and invest it in JFK every year and see how far JFK will go in the next 10 years. Put the $8,000 per month that you're giving that lawmaker, add it to JFK budget every month. I can tell you in the next 10 years, that $8,000, if you use it right in the right way, it will be something. It will provide you, the roofing will not be falling apart. If you have laboratory over there, it will be up to standard. If you have whatever you need, every year you invest, every month you invest that money in there just for that particular purpose, it will develop. So it needs that will of the people. I know most of the people in the diaspora have the will to do it, but we need the political will, and those so-called NGO who want to help Liberia because they love Liberia so much, that's why they're there, to also be willing to work with those in the diaspora for us to collaborate and bring up plans on how we can use these emphasis, or target these various areas and improve them, whether it's healthcare, whether it's agriculture, whatever the field is. But in healthcare, I know that's how we can start, by developing the laboratory system. But you talk about ambulances. We don't have, in my opinion, from what I have seen, having gone through different areas, we don't have emergency centers in Liberia at all. Because you cannot have an emergency center where you have no way for a gurney to roll in. So how are you going to carry the person off the bed to transport them in the emergency room? There is no place for handicap, or parking, or for handicap to walk in the emergency room, because you need a gurney to go up there, right? Or stretcher to go in. How will you keep taking it in there? You have to lift it up? No. And we who have done trauma or triaging or the EMT, we know that if the person have broken bones and stuff, and you move them in a certain way, you are causing more harm, tissue damage, and nerve damage, and the vascular system damages as you move that person if they got broken limbs. So I think that's how we can start. We can start by working together.
Somebody say, just reminded me, this is sad, so I should not laugh at it. On 24th Street, I think 2 days ago, a young brother, he was hit by a vehicle. They just hit the guy, hit and run. The driver hit him and took off. Young guy, and he was laying flat on the pavement. People surrounded him and they were trying to help him. And you were just telling that story, that just what reminded me. No ambulance inside, nothing inside. They were trying to take him to the hospital. In my head, I'm looking at the video. I said, man, this brother is probably dead. But, to help the guy, what these boys had to do? They lifted this young man up from the pavement. They put him on the back of a motorcycle. Someone sat behind him. And, they have no idea. The commentator was saying this guy is breathing slowly. He's breathing slowly. Who knows? The guy that was sitting between behind this person who was being rushed to the hospital, he was just literally holding him, bear hugging him, because any mistake, that guy would just, because he was completely out. So he was just a dead weight that brother was holding. And he was being transported on the back of a motorcycle to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's what happened on 24th Street just 2 days ago. And so
no stabilization.
No stabilization.
That's the first thing you do. If the car hit the guy, You don't know whether his neck was broken or whatever. You have to stabilize the entire body. That is, you got to make sure the entire body is immobilized. How do we do that? For example, if the arm is broken, we put a plank. Even if you don't have anything, you splint, you tie it up. If his neck, you try to keep his neck steady. So all those things, some of the accident were not in Liberia. And this is the sad thing that happened to my father too. Okay, when he was struck by the vehicle, when they were calling me and telling me, and I just imagine, because after going through EMT training and doing it myself, I just imagine what they were doing. They just pulled him up, just took him and just dashed in the car and they carried him. And that caused more internal bleeding. So before you can drive him from Baila to Ganta, he was already there. Wow. And I'm sure that's how my father died. Because when they ask, you don't blame the people because they think they're helping.
Of course.
But it causes more harm, right? Because they are not trained to that. And these are those basic things that we want to introduce in Liberia. You go into the villages, and that's how we can do. That's how we can remedy some of these things. Or Sharif, we go into the villages and teach them basic life-saving techniques. Hey, when car hits somebody or somebody fall broken, this is what you need to do. Instead of trying to pull that person's leg and straighten it, no. First of all, try to stabilize it before you start doing anything, or else you'll be causing more harm to that person's leg or their body or whatever. You'll be damaging nerves, but they don't know it. So since they don't know, they use what they have, and you can't blame them.
Yeah. And another thing again on the scorecard that is just, man, the 2025 scorecard, when you look at it, girls, girls primary education, right? Completion rate, it's way down, right?
26.
Completion rate is way down from primary education, which is a very, very sad state of things to look at, because here we are, that can be attributed to many different factors, but I'm just going to pick two of the factors. One of those factors, there are situations in the country, the economy is so high that most of these girls, they get pregnant while they're in school and they have to drop out of school. So that's one factor you got to look at. They don't finish school because either they got pregnant, whether it was by the teacher or it was by some person who was their economic benefactor. Something happened that caused them to drop out. Another plausible explanation is also linked to the economy. So everything goes back to the economy. Another plausible factor is also the very fact that when you look at, man, the last administration is just what really messed me up. The last administration, you had a minister of education who had his own private school, right? You have a minister of education who had his own private school. How in the world does he even care what public school operates?
Charging people $500 or more dollars. In fact, just to add what you just said, in his school, he had socks. He had to buy it from his school in the U.S. He had to buy book bag. Everything had to be bought at his school. And besides the $500 they were paying per semester, $500 USD, by the way, that you were paying per semester, you had to buy everything, pencil, everything you had to buy, and everything was in USD, $5, $10, $2, something around there.
Yeah.
And I don't see how that is not conflict of interest. I don't see how that is not corruption, but it was normal. It was accepted.
And so basically, that's what I'm saying. The two factors I'm looking at, teenage pregnancy is on the rise. So these girls are not able to go and get that primary education. The other thing to look at is the cost of education in the country. Everybody having now, Sapalucia, schools are everywhere compared to when you and I attended schools. We have very selective private schools, and those private schools, they were among the best. Nonetheless, you still have public schools that we still respected that were at the top of that game. Up to today's date, I cannot say anything negative when it came to the quality of education that Tubman had held in our days. Tubman High was one of our biggest challenger. Those of us that were in Quezon, when we say, "Oh, you're going to face Tubman High," we start shaking, because those guys they were at the top of their game. All of these schools, the GW Gibson that were across the street from us, all of those schools were still going. They were still operating. They were still functional. I'm not saying there were never a time where they were have protests, but it was not as frequent as we see it today. Right now, the University of Liberia, even though we're talking about primary education here, but the University of Liberia, you tell people right now, I graduated from the University of Liberia, and someone say, "Oh, I graduated from Cottington University College. That Cottington University College has prestige. Or Stella Maris, they have prestige. AMEU,
Yeah.
that's where people. UMU, that's where people going. Those kids that are going to LU, they just don't have the financial backing. So they want the government schools to open. And because of this, those two factors, cost of education and also teenage pregnancy, I believe those two factors are leading to the lower score when you see teenage pregnancy, girls' primary education rate being that low.
And Sherry, let me just put a point when it comes to the cost of education. Why it is true, and not many people knew this. Some of us some of us were Yana boys when we were attending one of the most expensive high school in Liberia, which is the SD on King Johnson Road.
Mhm.
We didn't have people in government. We don't have relatives somewhere. We were struggling. Even though we were one of the prestige high school in Liberia that was supposed to be expensive at the time, a Yana boy could still afford it.
Mhm.
Today in Liberia, I don't know how many Yana boys can afford to go to the community private schools, because most of the money I'm hearing, you can't make that kind of money as a Yana boy to go to private school. If you got to pay $1,000 US, you got to pay. Then to go to, I don't know how much it's cost now to go to SDA, but I don't think SDA is that kind of school that we were in the 90s. Because when we appeared on SDA campus last year, when I went in that building, I didn't believe I was looking at SDA that I attended, because there is nothing called structure in that building anymore. There is no academic challenges, because just imagine, just simple thing. I went in the science class, even though like, some of us still say it's not relevant. Simple physics questions I'm asking a guy in the laundry, he can't answer. I'm like, "Are you a science student?" He say, "Yes." I'm like, "You're not." So the academic standard have fallen so bad that everybody can just want pay money and get a certificate. So yes, this completion rate is, even to me, I think these statistics are just from Monrovia, and I don't think Liberia should be defined by just Monrovia.
Sure.
Okay, because if you go further out, there are no schools in many places. So there is no access. So you're talking about completion. They should also have a scorecard that states access to education.
Mm-hmm.
They should have that as well. Access to food, because agriculture, that should be our fundamental as a country who wants to develop.
Yeah.
We should first of all invest in education, privatize it instead of the legislature. We should privatize agriculture. And if you have good food and well-balanced diet, healthcare will be a necessity, but not as much. And let me just remind us, living is a right in the Republic of Liberia. To be alive is a right. It is embedded in the Constitution for a person to live happily. That's Article 1 of the Constitution. And in the absence of these things, the government have not upheld the Constitution. And every president that put their right hand up to swear an oath, they said they are going to defend the Constitution. They are going to uphold and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. But if you're not providing this necessity for your people, you're not fulfilling them. So that's when the Liberian people need to start speaking up. Instead of celebrating these scorecards, use these scorecards as means to ask your government, your lawmakers, what have you done in the last 12 months? Why is education at this? Why are we not seeing 80, 90%? Because when you send your child to school, I don't think anybody in Liberia send a child to school and tell us to go to school 70%. No. When we were in academic, we were fighting for 100. That's what we're fighting for. So Liberian citizens, this is the time to use this scorecard instead of clapping and cheering, to ask your lawmaker in your district. And I always refer to them because they are the one you elected to go to the capital city and represent you. Ask them, why is it like that way?
Man, so let's touch one last one. I know we're about to wrap things up here, but let's look at the natural resource protection though. That was a category that really blew my mind. The natural resource protection. Okay.
17%.
17%, right? When you look at the natural resource protection, that actually blew my mind. For example, Liberia is one of those countries that's very, very rich. I always say it. Now, we have rich soil that if we wanted to explore agriculture, we will have the opportunity to actually grow and be very, very reliant in producing our own food if we wanted to do so. But let's look at the natural resources. You got your iron ore, you got your diamond, you got your gold, you got all of these different things. But to protect those things, basically though, oh man, again, this is what we're gonna pick on the government. We're gonna pick on the lawmakers because concession deals are being signed that undermine the people and it undermines the citizens that live in those areas. Let me just give you an example here. I'm not going to use example for America because people get angry every time we use America as an example. But anyway, I will use America. but I will start with Asia, right? Let's go to Indonesia. They want to change their capital city, and they want to move now from Jakarta. They want to move to Borneo, around in that area. And there's a place called Kalimantan. That's the place that they really want to move this green capital. That's a 2045 project and all of these different things. Before they could go in that area, they knew there were natives that live in that area, and these people have depended on our land. And there are resources over there that they did not just want to go and gloss over. So what did they do? They talked to the people, and they talk with the elders and they say, look, we're going to relocate you, but this is what we're going to do. We're going to respect the land. We're going to respect the resources. We're going to do this and keep everything in part. We are not going to kick you out of their place. And this is what we want to do for you. Protecting the life of the people, protecting the livelihood of the people, protecting the natural environment of the people. Here in this country, you have the war takes place between the native and the settlers. Let's just put it that way. There was a pipeline during Obama administration that they wanted to run from South Dakota all the way, right?
Yeah.
It was going to
Yeah.
go through tribal land, right?
Yeah.
It was going to go through tribal land. The people say, Obama said, okay, we'll make concession. We'll make it work. We got to protect the things that we have. Protect what is the need. We got to protect it. And so I just want to come to our natural resources. When you look at the resources, somebody outside telling you you're not taking care of your own house because that's our
Yeah.
house. Somebody outside, and I think our report came from Yale or it came from also UNESCO. They are saying you're not. So if somebody outside is seeing that your resources they have developed leg and they're walking out of the country free and they're not being protected to bring benefit to the people, why are you not seeing it? And many times when you ask the people, they don't even care what that is.
Yeah. You see, Sheriff, it's because again, people are defining Liberia, the whole of Liberia in Monrovia. But let me give them a simple one that should be visible to all of them. Sand. Sand. It's on the beaches. It's everywhere you pass. You see sand. And Liberians are not getting angry that the Chinese or the Asians are digging sand. And they're not even thinking, okay, why would they go across
Illegal
the
mining.
Pacific Ocean?
Illegal mining.
Why would they go across the Pacific Ocean, cross the Atlantic, and come to Liberia and digging valuable? And they're not taking the black sand. Now he ain't just going to the beach and collecting the sand. Oh no, he got certain sand around the Farmington, right there. He might give you in Farmington area there. Certain sand that they're taking from the land and they're transporting it back to Asia. And you're not sitting there thinking, okay, why is the guy doing this? And you're not asking questions. He signed concession agreement. I mean, these are the things we're talking about. Firestone. And the $500 million contract that was just signed, I think HPS or whatever that one is in Nima County. I think which we allegedly we can right now go saying some of have not heard anything different yet. The reason for which P was fired. I mean, I know he didn't say it, but that's a suspect. That's a suspicion some of have, right? So those natural, what is the benefit? And when they talk about protecting your natural resources, it means using it for the benefit of your people.
That's right.
That's what it means about protecting. They say go put security guard on it. No. For example,
but even
Firestone,
if you sign concession deal, let that concession deal be for the benefit of the people. If that same Chinese guy, if he comes over there, right there, that they call the place, I think they call it Power One Station, they play the DD, all that same from in that particular area there. Now, if that may come and he signed a legitimate concession deal and say, look, we want to sign the concession deal and it is fair to the people. We also got to make sure that we tell them, hey, you're going to be digging from here. It's going to cause, there's a chance that erosion is going to take place.
Yeah.
There's a possibility that A, B, and C will happen. We have to build retaining wall to retain this place to make sure that this place, the people that live down there, their houses don't get blown away because recession or all of the erosion have taken place. That's part of that protection plan.
Yeah. And the protection also is how can our resources benefit the citizen? Now they're taking the sand from Liberia to China. Okay, what if whatever they're going to do in China, they can do it right in Liberia? Why
Mhm.
can't they build factory? Why haven't we learned from what happened in 1927 with the Fire Agreement? We gave an agreement that had no stipulation of, hey, build a factory here so that we can produce our own rubber. Build a factory here so that we can build our own tires, rubber plate, and whatever. We have not learned. So are we going to learn? We're in the 21st century. And now we're talking about greenhouse gas. That's another commodity that is coming up. And we're going to sign the same agreement we signed in 1927 with Firestone.
The people say
Yes, just come.
the people begging you to not deplete your Sapo National Park. They say don't mess it up. They know why they're saying that to you.
Yeah, but we don't know the value.
We don't know the value.
We don't know the value. And when we're saying these things, people feel like, oh, we're enemy of the state because we are identifying what can benefit the citizens. We are identifying this is what can benefit the country. Because if you use your resources wisely, you become the best. America is still, why it is true people are facing electric cars and all this stuff, America is still pulling petrol to have a huge reserve. Iron ore, they have a huge reserve. What reserve does Liberia have beside the one that guy just putting up there? What?
Yeah.
We're not building any reserve.
And you know,
That's what most countries are doing.
You know, as we come to wrap this up, Sapo, said one of the things you say is absolutely correct, because if you protect that resource and that resource is for the benefit of the people, this scorecard that you're celebrating, a lot of other boxes will be green. Because if you protect that natural resources and you really focus it on benefiting the people, and you say, China, create factories in this country, company B, create factories in this company, guess what already goes up? Your job creation goes up, your economic plan goes up, your employment rate goes up, because there are new companies now that are being established that will be able to check those boxes for you. So
And you will not appear on this scorecard.
You're not appearing on the scorecard.
You're not appearing on the scorecard. And yeah, because people don't know that. The reason you appear on this scorecard, because it's telling you you depend on donors. Those are the people that you found on this scorecard. They have a 76 country. Most of them in Africa. The reason you are on this scorecard is because you're telling the people you cannot manage your own resources, you are worthless, you are useless, so they must do everything for you. If you don't see it that way, then I don't know what's wrong with Liberian people. That's how we should see these scorecards. That we are worthless, we don't know how to self-govern, we got to rely on UNESCO to tell us how to manage our resources, we got to rely on IMF how to we have to rely on the World Bank to tell us what is good for us. That should be an insult to every Liberian reading this scorecard, including the president.
All right, friends. Again, we want to say thank you so much for joining us, man. Sapalusi, I still want to. You still got 1 minute, though. I want to give you a 1 minute. I know you just ended, but I will just give my 30-second remark here. Look, anyone on our platform here, like I always say, we pick what we want to talk about. We talk about things that would benefit the country or things that would benefit our people. Those of us that sit on this platform, I don't know about any other platform, but those of us that sit on this platform, we have invested interest in Liberia. We got vested interest in Liberia. And we don't just say interest because we were born there, but interest because we want to invest in the country. And we already doing so, investing in the country. And because of that, we want to make sure that the country is better. And we also have family members that live in the country. And one of the things that I always say, whether I say jokingly or seriously, is this. If for some reason Liberia is better, my blood pressure on this side of the world, it will go down a little bit, because that would be less people that will be stretching their hands to me to ask me if I can just help them to pay that children's school fee. Less people that will reach out to say, hey, brother, Christmas coming or my Christmas on you. Less people that would do so. And again, I'm not complaining about anybody who have extended their hands to me. I'm not saying that. That's why I'm not saying anybody's name. But I'm saying it will be better If they are able to have their own job and do their own thing, it makes life so much easier. And it will give them that thing. Liberians are good people. We like to work. We love our independence. Nobody want to keep extending their hand to someone begging for something. But the economic situation in the country have made it so to the point that people have no choice but to reach out. And so if the government can just take some of these recommendations and stop celebrating things they should not be celebrating, focus on helping the people, Liberia indeed will be a better place. So, Sabalucia, your closing remarks, and then we'll wrap it up for today, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, my brother, for being part of of this broadcast. And I want to say thanks to our audience, all those that tune in. Please share the video. And as you are listening to us, look, we don't hate Liberia. Some of us love that. My brother said we love that country. There where we're from. We have vested, we have invested, and we have vested. We want to be in there. That's all I can tell you. We want to be involved in everything that goes on in Liberia. And if Liberia shall rise, it will include every one of us. We are not saying these things because we hate one government or the other. No. My centerpiece is Liberia. It doesn't matter who comes there. Unity Party is going to go. NDPL was there. It's gone. National Patriotic Party was there. It's gone. True We Party was once there. It's gone. But Liberia still remains. And if Liberia is to become a better nation, we need to take ourselves from these scorecards. Let us be able to self-govern. Let us be able to self-evaluate. Because if you don't know, if you cannot realize your own errors, you cannot realize your own condition, you cannot realize your own diseases, you're not going to be able to solve it. You're not going to be able to find a remedy for this. And I will be frank with us. The UNESCO, WHO, Yale, or whoever these entities are, they are only using us to get their data, to get their statistics right, and to get more donor funding. They're not giving you this grant because they love you so much. But let us not forget, when they give you $1,000 grant, guess how many loan they give you? $5 million loan. And the loan interest rate, you cannot pay off the debt. So what's the essence of fighting to be on a scorecard that will give you $500 million grant and give you $1 billion loan that you can never pay off, that your children will continue to pay for? Liberians, let's get off this scorecard by investing in ourselves. Let us cut down some of the wasteful spending. Let us invest in prioritizing education, health, agriculture. Those are places that will start taking us out of poverty. And with that, Liberia can rise and we can become a better nation. Again, we want to say thank you for joining us today. God bless and have a wonderful week.